Hello and welcome to CIO Leadership Live in ASEAN. My name is James Henderson, Editorial Director of CIO based in Singapore, and I'll be your host today as we welcome Sharon Ng, Ministry Family CIO at MTI and GovTech in Singapore, and also our recent CIO 75 honoree in 2021. Sharon, welcome. How are you?
Good, thanks, James.
It's good to see you. I'm all right, thanks. Thanks for joining us.
Awesome.
Good stuff. Now, we've spoken in the past about transformation. You've been honored because of it in your innovative work. It almost implies that it's a given for every organization, that every organization is transforming at pace. But obviously, in reality, that's not necessarily as easy as us maybe saying it on a call like this. But to kick off, what's been the approach that you've taken in your own career as CIO to transformation? Because a lot said about it, but in reality, is it a little bit different?
Yeah, actually, it's close to reality. I think for me, the approach taken is really being clear about what business problems are we trying to solve, right? Knowing where we are and then where we are going, making sure that there's very clear vision and direction set helps a lot in the transformation journey as a CIO. And of course, we are not an island, right? We build the partnerships around us, whether it's with business stakeholders or industry partners to actually help with the transformation journey to deliver the outcomes that we want to drive. So personally, in my career, that's been the approach I've taken. Like, where is it that I want to go, and what's going to help me get there. I think that actually translates well in the approach as well in my own journey as a CIO.
And that's actually a really good point, Sharon, because the end goal is crucial, of course, in the outcome. But you raised a good point of how I get there, those steps along the way, because I'm very mindful we've got some CIOs at the bleeding edge and some maybe at the start of that transformation journey. Is it like a light bulb moment? I'm guessing it probably isn't, where I need to transform and today is the day we start to transform. I'm sure it's not as naive as that coming from media. But how does that journey start? And what are some of those key steps along the way for you?
Yeah, I think it's really going back to what I mentioned about being clear about what is the problem, what are the problems or challenges that we're trying to solve. I think many times people just think about, especially tech people, it's just the nature of us. We love to play with new innovation and new toys, right? That we forgot that actually what is the essence of the business issue at hand and the impact, right, that it will make if we were to solve this well. Having that picture of that outcome and the impact that it will bring is important. That's one. I think secondly, to recognize that we really have to put in the right people, the right roles. And that's not just the tech, right? It's really mapping out who your stakeholders are. A lot of it, successful transformation, when I look at it, is very close partnership between the business teams, the operations, as well as the tech. And then you think about what are the tools they might need or the skills that they might need to actually be the workforce of the future.
Yeah.
And spending time to not just run and then deliver and then move on to the next, right? But actually taking a step back to look at actually do my workforce, my teams, in the right roles, right, driving the right things, but do they have the right capabilities and skill sets or tools to actually help them? So I think many times we spend money on, for private sector, we spend money on capabilities that benefits our customers and partners. I think at the same time, we should be looking at spending the investments for building our own internal workforce as well to make them more operational, efficient, clean up all the inefficiencies within, right? That's one step that I take very seriously. And then I think last but not least is the effective engagement of the community, your customers, your partners, at the same time, your stakeholders internally. I think we play down a lot on the communication part. We just want to get the things done and go right into the weeds. Yeah. But then you don't actually know where the fire is strategically sometimes. So it's important to actually, at least for the CIO, to have that helicopter forest view, right? Of actually, you know what? Maybe we should look at this first, and that will solve like 10 other issues down the road potentially. Yeah.
Some great points to unpack there, Sharon, especially on the skills in the team. And I think we'll get into that. I know you've got some tips on, how to maximize and create high performing teams, but the internal side is key as well. Now, you mentioned a few there of, if you're down in the weeds, sometimes you can't see the wood from the tree, so to speak. How are you, some of the, the transformations that we see, and there's a lot of best practice in Singapore and in ASEAN. So there's some great work that CIOs are doing on a daily basis. But as we mentioned, it's not as easy as that sometimes. Yeah. What are those roadblocks along the way? I mean, we've got the common ones, of course, legacy, budget, the culture, all of that. I'm guessing they never go away, no matter what we're talking about.
So I think the first thing is, we are always constantly asked to do more with less. Yeah. So making sure that we have the resources. I mean, it's a bargaining seat at the CIO level, where you are constantly thinking about, do I have the right resources, the right size resources to actually go and undertake such transformation, especially if it's a organizational, global kind of transformation. I think CIOs, I find, even for myself, right, it was an afterthought. We like, let's go do it, but then we didn't really think through how to resource it properly. So that's one. And then I think having clear roles and responsibilities.
Yeah.
I mean, these are very fundamental stuff, but it's very powerful if we get it up right at the start. Having the executive sponsorship with the role, the right roles and responsibility for a successful transformation with the business and tech very closely. And then obviously it becomes it's not like, oh, it's just a project, it's just another initiative, right? I think the other part for me is, which I find is the hardest to solve, is you want all this change to happen at lightning speed. However, actually, right from the top to the bottom, the mindset is not there. We talk about data quite a few times, right, James? I think that's like, trying to drive data, to use data in our decisions. It's not something that it can be there, the dashboards can be there, but nobody's using it, then it's useless, right? So these are some of the challenges I feel that there's a disconnect between what people want or they think they need to achieve in terms of transformation versus what it takes to actually get there. So these are I think the mindset shift is probably the hardest. It's actually beyond culture. I mean, culture is a much broader thing, but the mindset of actually embracing new ways of doing things, embracing a new set of thinking. I think for me it's a challenge, right? I mean, it's one of the challenge that is like the pink elephant in the room and nobody talks about.
And you've got it from both sides, haven't you? We always talk about getting the boardroom buy-in, which is fundamental. But to your point, the amount of times you see great innovation rolled out and no one's using it.
Correct. Yeah. And how is it successful? It's not just about rolling it out successfully, but is anybody using it? If the answer is no, then I think we just wasted our time and invested.
To your point that you're not an island, that's internally as well, I'm guessing, not just with your partners externally.
That's right. Yeah.
And just on that, I mean, you mentioned a really good point there as a segue in terms of, it's not like a project like we would think in the past. And I'm curious to get your thoughts on this, because when we talked about transformation or innovation over the last 2 or 3, well, not maybe the last 2 or 3 years, I think everyone's been a bit busy, but when we've been looking at innovating and moving forward, it's not spoke about in the same way as it was in the past when, for example, people would maybe move to the cloud and there'd be a migration date, or SD-WAN, or what secure, there always seemed to be a deadline of deployment perhaps, or of success, and it was either over budget, under, ahead of time, behind.
Yes.
Is transformation a little bit more fluid? Do you have deadlines on, like, there's no end date, I would guess, on this?
Yeah, actually the discipline on having the milestones, the timelines should still be there.
Yeah.
right? Because if not, we'll just be talking paperwork.
Well, yeah.
Like beautiful diagrams of what we're going to do, and then okay, so when is it going to be done and who's doing it? So the question, right? I think transformation, there is no end date to that, because we should be constantly improving, and we will not say one day, oh yeah, we have arrived. Maybe at that point in time when we delivered the milestone and successfully deployed the project, that's one milestone, and that's not the end, right? I think the constant continuous improvement and really doing it fast. We talk about agile, doing it fast and failing fast, and then learn from it and then refine and refine. So I do see it as a continuous process, right? Because I don't think we can ever say we have arrived. There's always higher mountains and success that people will strive to reach. Yeah.
There's always another Everest with transformation.
Exactly. Yeah.
Now, on the tech side and the driving the transformation, some great insights there, but you've touched on it a few times, Sharon, there around the other side, the leadership, the influence, the collaboration. And actually, my question was going to be around how do you influence the leadership team? And that still stands. But to your point as well, it's not just the leadership team you need to influence. You need to influence below and around and everything else in the organization. So how important is a CIO's influence and collaborative capabilities in the modern day?
Oh, very. I would say that it will be the number one skill set. If I were to hire a CIO in my group, that will be the number one skill set I look for. How do we actually, especially if you are coming into an organization that are siloed, potentially, that's how they work, because everyone is so well defined. The departments are so well defined, and they have their own budgets, they can do whatever they want, and you coming in new, how would you actually do it? So I would say that it's really important, and the way that you get the seat on the table with the rest of your peers in the business or in the senior leadership team is really being able to demonstrate value in the early days, right? So I've seen scenarios whereby tech leaders, my own, in the past, not now, maybe they switch off, right? They switch off when it's like they are talking about something else. It's not my problem, right? Some marketing issue or some sales issue. But the approach I've taken is not the best. I guess I can just offer, what I do. It would be that always listen, right? I mean, what is said and what is not said as well in an executive meeting, and be able to contribute. Contribute as in looking at ways to solve those challenges that the business stakeholders are actually facing. Even though you may not be in that seat, right? I think that building of that actually builds trust very quickly. Because hey, suddenly I have a partner that actually potentially could help and offer a very different perspective, because CIOs actually are good problem solvers. They are, and I think the board, more boards, company boards are actually starting to realize, especially in this digital transformation acceleration age, right, where they start to realize that actually we have untapped resources in the tech space, where that enables us to do more with less. Then also, if you can build trust and add value to the conversation. So those are the few things. Active listening, engagement. Those are the groundwork that the CIO needs to do, right, to build that relationship. Because without that, I don't think you can. Even though your title is CIO, you may not get anywhere. Yeah, and some great points, and these are more non-tech skills of a CIO. And I think to build on that more, you mentioned culture before, but it's actually beyond that. It could be a mindset as well. How does that your influence and approach extend to creating that culture or mindset, if that's the better phrase, around individual growth to meet those professional and personal goals? Because as you said, there's a huge responsibility
and value that a CIO can bring to the table in other areas, not just the traditional sense of the word in terms of the role that you would do. How are you moving ahead to create that mind shift change, culture change?
Yeah, for me, actually, first of all, I think I look at a winning culture is quite important. Having that the winning together as a team mindset. Even for tech teams, there are different groups that are responsible for different things. And we are not an island. I mean, we have for example, we have the software development function, and then we have obviously the other functions like the program management and all that. Both, I guess, the end-to-end tech teams, right? They have and the support as well, right? Have to see that we are one winning team, and that we will work together to solve whatever issues versus drawing lines, right? I think, and it's not just tech, I think across any initiative, any strategy that we talk about, where as long as teams become territorial and they start to draw lines and territory, this is what I own versus this is what you own, and credit grabbing, which we don't talk about at all, right, in meetings. It's but it's a real thing. It's something that inhibits that winning, innovative and winning culture. So as a leader, I think to understand where the organization barriers are, and sometimes we create it ourselves as leaders, the way we structure our teams. We created that barriers ourselves. And so the first thing for me is really to understand whether there are such barriers, right, within my own organization that inhibits that kind of people wanting to step up and own. So I would say that would be building that innovative and winning culture would be an key imperatives for CIOs to look at. And it's also to drive change, right? Because we talk about transformation, it's all about change, and the change management part is always poorly done. After we develop the product, how do we actually drive that change management?
If there was a percentage of ratio of time spent on change management compared to the shiny bit that you mentioned, it's less than 50-50, I would guess.
Oh yeah, change management. Oh, last 5%.
95 to
exactly.
5. Wow.
That's how traditionally people would think, oh, change management. They focus on developing and creating that solution, and then they think that once it's deployed, that is the success of it. But actually, after change management is adoption, and then the whole continuation of the improvement and refinement. I think that part we can do better. Yeah. With
that startling, well, not official statistic, but it's a good anecdotal one, and that real lack of following on after the technology, so to speak. It's a good way to bring in that influence around the wider team, and you touched on it there around the mindset and the culture, even within your own IT or technology division or department. How do you extend your reach and communication to the other parts of the business that would, on paper, have no link to what you're doing, and to your point before, perhaps not be the people that wouldn't deploy or use the technologies that you're rolling out? How do you influence beyond your base, really?
Yeah. So actually, it's a lot of effort. You kind of map out your in an organization. There's so many departments, right? I think for me, immediately, of course, I want to make sure my immediate stakeholders are being taken care of. And actually, if you do that well, you will eventually map out who are your stakeholders. Your stakeholders.
Down and down and down.
Yeah, down, right? And that's where you create that linkage. I would say it's not a easy effort. It will take time. And also, as you build credibility in having quick success, there's the days of delivering any sort of innovative solution in years, right, should go out the window, right? We have to demonstrate quick successes, even if it's just a proof of concept. to actually build that credibility, and then we build on that momentum. And you know what? The thing will speak for itself. It's like a verbal marketing. You know, it will just goes beyond your. You don't even know that, oh, such a group existed. You know, that are interested in actually what you are doing. And I think that's how you build that momentum, and also reputation for the team. It's actually a great motivation booster that the team actually see, oh wow, this is so impactful. It can be a very, very simple thing, in just tweaking, like a use of RPAs, for example, right? The robotics, right? It's such a simple thing, but yet it solves so much of tedious processes within the finance and HR, those really corporate functions, that that it did make a difference. I mean, you don't have to talk about big milestone.
No.
Yeah, it's really starts from, hey, actually, with the tools that we use every day, even like MS Teams or Skype or whatever, you know, those collaboration tools, how we organize ourselves, our teams to collaborate better, even that simple change makes a difference in how people work. And I think it just builds on that, and then and people spending great ideas, having great ideas in how we innovate.
It sounds simple, but I know it really isn't. It's there's a lot behind this in terms of, you know, just when you say it on in a setting like this, it sounds very straightforward, and that's part of the art of the success that you've had as well, to be able to do that. And hopefully it's a great lesson for everyone on the line that, you know, transformation doesn't need to be those big shiny, you know, big blockbuster type projects. Yes, there's room for that, and they happen, but there's day-to-day transformation that can genuinely make a difference to the business, and to your point, actually bring in other parts of the organization because you're genuinely making a difference for them. So Sharon, some fantastic insights, and you're living proof of transformation leadership in action on a daily basis. Before I let you go and relieve you of your guidance duties today, what's important to you this year? What's on your to-do list?
Yeah, I think, James, for me is really being laser focused on what are the needle movers for us, and that translates to a few things. For me, would be, first of all, looking at where the business problems for the government to business digital services that we are delivering today, where are the gaps and areas where we can improve. So that's a big part of what I'm doing, you know, in the coming months. Really looking at that with the team, helping businesses in the different stages that they are, whether they are starting out a business or running the business or wanting to grow internationally. What capabilities do we need to enable to actually help Singapore, or businesses that are in Singapore, to actually do that? And then last but not least, of course, continue to develop that high performing teams. You know, I think one area would be sensitive of the psychological safety that we create in our organizations, to allow people to dare to step up and take on new challenges that they may not see themselves doing it. And in fact, I will encourage, I think, you know, more people to actually have that breakthrough mindset to try out, right? Because you never know until you give it a go. And I'm one leader that will definitely give that chance, and somebody steps up, and of course be there to support them, you know, to succeed. So I see it as a journey, James. I think these are the 3 areas. So just be very laser focused. Don't do 10 things. Do 3 things well. And for me, the focus would be really creating that business, government to business digital services, and doing it well. The whole experience should be seamless. Yeah.
Sharon, thank you enormously. Firstly, for your guidance and you know, examples and areas to watch out for fellow CIOs in Singapore and ASEAN, but also just for you taking the time today to really, you know, go into some of the depth around transformation and leadership. They both go hand in hand. And given your to-do list, it sounds like you've got a lot of work to do, so I will let you get on with it.
Yeah, thanks, James. Appreciate the opportunity. Yeah.
Always a pleasure, Sharon. It's great to see you, and thanks as always. And thank you everyone for watching CIO Leadership Live in ASEAN. I'm James Henderson, and we will see you again soon. Thank you.